Whether you're an aspiring leader, an established executive, an at-home mom, or a young person wanting to grow and learn, Marsha Martin will share actionable strategies for greater happiness, success, motivation, creativity, productivity, love, health, contribution, and fulfillment. Welcome to Talk This Way with your host, Marsha Martin. Marsha will guide you through the basics and unravel the ABCs of communication, leadership, and success by taking the wax on, wax off approach to communication mastery, ensuring that the skills you acquire will make you unstoppable. So now, please welcome the host of Talk This Way, Marsha Martin.
Hey everybody, welcome. Hello. This is Marsha Martin. I'm your host of Talk This Way, and we're being live streamed by Bold Brave TV. Welcome to this episode. The purpose of this show and the past episodes and over the next many weeks of the next episodes is for you to get in touch with your personal power, for you to learn how to access it, how to utilize it, how to use it to cause all the things that you want in life to make your dreams come true. And I'll be teaching you the laws of much of the universe and the laws of communication, which we're going to be working on today, and many things for you to look at in terms of how you need to be, what you need to do so that you can have what you want to have. You know, this whole time I've been with you so far, we've been talking a lot about different concepts. I've been talking about how mindset works and what championship performance is and how listening has to do with your effectiveness and many conceptual ideas. But today we're going to get into some of the practical things about communication. And I want to talk today about the laws that need to be in place before communication can actually happen. Because communication isn't just hearing somebody or speaking to somebody. There's something else going on, a lot more than that. And there are especially two specific big laws that need to be in place before communication, real communication, can even happen. Now, you, I'm sure, know what I mean by laws. So let's pretend I have this pen in my hand and I'm going to let it go. Well, what will happen if I let it go? And I'm sure everybody here watching will say, well, it'll fall. And then my question to you is, well, what if I let it go? But what if I really want it not to fall? What if I conclude that it won't? What if I hope that it doesn't? What if I throw a temper tantrum and just actually demand that it won't? Because if you think about it, all of those things is what you do sometimes when you're trying to create a result. You conclude, you assume, you hope, you demand, you do all of those things, and sometimes they don't work because there might be a law that says if you let something go, it's going to fall. And what's that law? Well, we know that law. That law is gravity. And we've all accepted gravity. Think about it. You kind of made friends with gravity. And you did that when you were very young. You learned that gravity always wins. You don't fight with gravity anymore. You organize your life around gravity. And you do that because gravity is really in your face. It's not subtle. You don't have to think about it. It's right there, smack. If you don't follow the laws of gravity, you get hurt. So there's no one here, I bet, that goes up to the 10th floor of any building and says, screw gravity today. I'm going out the 10th floor window because I'm just too tired or too exhausted, or I don't have enough time to go down the stairs or take the elevator to go outside. Screw gravity. Well, if you did that, you would find that there is a law called gravity that is right in your face. And there are lots of laws of how the universe works, and especially laws of how communication works. There's two big ones in terms of communication. If you want to connect with someone, if you want them to be open to your ideas, if you want to have them commit to some of the things that you're committed to, if you want them to produce a result or take action on something, if you want them to align behind a mission, if you want them to follow you when you're leading them somewhere, all of those things, when we have real communication, can happen. But they need laws in order to be real communication. You need to know these laws and you need to follow these laws. And in the last episode, we talked about one of those laws, which is called being centered. Being centered is when you're open, you're present, and you're connected. Open means that you're willing to allow someone to have another point of view, and it can exist, and you're free, kind of open to consider it possible, even if you don't agree with it. You can allow something to exist and not agree with it all at the same time. And you don't even need to tell anybody you don't agree. You can just allow them to share their point of view and really get it. That's called being open, considering it's possible. Connected, that there's something happened between two people, that you're connected. It's an exchange. It's happening together. It's a dance. Somebody comes in and starts talking to you, or you start talking to someone else and they start texting on their phone. Well, it's not really connected, is it? And present. Being centered is open, connected, present. Present is I'm here now. I'm with you. I'm listening to you. I'm recreating your experience. I'm in this moment as you're sharing it with me. I'm not thinking about what I'm going to say while you're talking to me, because that's not being present. That means I'm in my head. I'm not considering what happened in the past or worried about what's going to happen in the future. I'm here in this moment with you. So if I'm open and present and connected, we call that being centered. And that's the first law that has to be in place in order for real communication to take place. So let me give you an example of how this happens in the universe and maybe how you can apply it. Let's say you're a salesperson and you have something that you're committed to presenting to someone, and you have an appointment with them, and you have a presentation, and you've practiced your presentation, and you have this meeting, and you go in and you're all excited, and you have all of the things that you need to show them, and you understand the material, and you've practiced. And then they say to you, oh, I'm so sorry, some crisis has happened, and I only have 5 minutes instead of 30 like we had planned. Well, first of all, you get off center. And they're probably off center also, because they're thinking about what they need to do and what crisis is going on in their lives. And so what I've noticed, and I've trained thousands of salespeople, what I noticed that the first tendency is for people to think they have to hurry up, get the presentation done because they only have this amount of time. But they're not centered. They're not open, present, or connected. But they think that the information is going to be the thing that causes the communication to happen, and it doesn't. That's not the law. The law says you must be centered first, present, open, connected. So it would be better, and you would have better results, and you would be more successful if you spent that 5 minutes getting that person centered, because they're off center. And it's not just you who needs to be centered and present and open and connected. It's the receiver also. There's two people always in the communication, the sender and the receiver. Both have to be centered in order for real communication to take place. So if you took that 5 minutes that you have instead of the 30 that you were promised, and you made sure that you were centered, you were present, you were in your body, you were connected, you were open, you weren't thinking about, oh no, I'm not going to make my sale, and off in your brain or your mind somewhere or your head. And you allowed them to get centered by saying something that allowed them to be centered. Maybe it's okay, I can understand Why don't you take a minute to take a breath here? As long as we have 5 minutes, I'm going to make sure that I share the most important things with you. So it's really fine. You would have more results in that 5 minutes than if you rushed through your presentation because you followed the law. The second big law is called space. There's a rule in life or a law in life, and it's that for anything to exist, it must have space in which it can exist. In this universe, there's two things. There's space and things in space. Space and things in space. Words, emotions, feelings are all things that need space in which to exist. So this law that there must be space first means you have to create space first for the thing that you want to exist, which is the communication that you're going to be having with another person. I had the honor one time of leading a seminar at Omega Institute with Edgar Mitchell. He and I were the joint facilitators. Edgar Mitchell, as many of you I'm sure know, was one of the astronauts that got to go to the moon. And our seminar was about space. He talked about outer space and I talked about inner space. So I want you to think about a situation that happens to all of us where this law comes into effect. Let's say you have somebody that works for you, or you have a child that you want to do something, or you have someone you're trying to explain how to do something in a particular way, and you give them all the instructions, and you are very clear about what you're saying and how to do it, and you take some time with them, and you explain it to them, and you're kind, and you describe it. And then have you ever had it happen? And I'm sure you'll say yes to this because I've trained thousands of people, and whenever I ask them this question, they all raise their hand and say, yes, it happened to me too. They go off and they do it exactly the way you told them not to do it. Yeah, that. So take a look at that. I want you to kind of analyze it. What do you do when that happens? And I've asked this question to thousands of people. And if you really look at your behavior, you will find that what we all do naturally is we tend to tell them again. Only this time, we maybe consider that, well, maybe we didn't do it as well as we could have the first time. Give yourself the benefit of the doubt. It's okay. Maybe they didn't understand because you didn't do it as well as you could have in the instruction. And you say, okay, well, let me explain again what I really meant. And you take a little longer this time and you explain it a little more in detail. And maybe you even do some role play and say to them, okay, say to me what I just said to you, and tell me back what you think that you heard. And you do all of these kinds of things longer and bigger and more detailed to explain to them more about what you want them to do. And I bet you find the same thing that all of these thousands of people I've asked this question to. What happens many times is they go off and they do it their own way anyway. Now, it's interesting what human beings do after that. Usually it gets a little louder, a little more upset. You start making conditions or warnings. You're going to be grounded if you don't do it the way I told you to do it. I'm going to tell HR and I'm going to put a warning out and it's going to affect your job and I need you to do this exactly the way that I told you. And you can tell my voice is getting bigger, and so I'm getting a little more angry and I'm getting louder and I'm making conditions. And then doesn't it even happen sometimes even then, that they go off and they don't do it the way you asked them to do it? Or they do it a different way? Or it doesn't get done the way that they said they would? And then the last step usually, if you're like me or anybody else that I know, is you finally give up and do it yourself. I want you to think about this because this has to do with this whole issue of space And when we get back from the break, I'm going to tell you exactly why what you just did didn't work, and then what to do to have a better result. So, this is Marcia. I'm your host of Talk This Way. We're being live streamed by Bold Brave TV, and I'll see you right after the break.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Hey, welcome back. I'm Marcia Martin, your host of Talk This Way, and we're being live streamed by Bold Brave TV. Okay, I hope you thought about what I was saying, and I'm sure that you've recognized you could have been in that situation where you're trying to tell somebody something to do, giving them an instruction, wanting them to handle something, getting something done, and then they go off and do it exactly the way you told them not to do it. And then, of course, you tell them again, and then you get angry, and then you give them conditions, and then you give them warnings. And even then, many times, they don't do it the way that you ask them to do it. So this isn't the whole answer, but it's a big part of the answer of why that doesn't work. And I'm always a little, it's interesting about human beings. They seem to keep doing things that don't work. So if you notice, what you're doing is you're putting something into their space. When you speak and give them an instruction or ask them to do something or describe something or explain something, you're taking your words, your emotions, your feelings, your vision, all of those are things, and you're sending it across the distance and through space, external space, into their internal space. And usually what is so is most human beings are filled up. They don't have any room. They don't have any internal space. They don't have any room because it's already filled up. And it's filled up with things like doubts or resentments or regrets or a list of to-dos that they think that they have to remember, or worry about the future, or regrets about the past, or things that they're just got on their mind, wondering if they're pregnant, hoping they are or hoping they aren't, considering that their in-laws are coming for dinner tonight, and what are they going to have for dinner, and what are they going to say, and what are they going to do, and are they okay? Will they get the next promotion for the job that they want? Are they good enough for whatever that they're trying to succeed in? all of us have internal kinds of things that are going on that fill up our space. If you've ever gone to a lecture and you've been in a university and you've had to go through many classes, you'll know what I mean, where the professor is talking and talking a lot like I am right now. And you get filled up to the point you just kind of say, I've had enough. I can't take in anymore. I'm full. I'm out of here. So this idea that you have internal space, I want you to really think about, because it's really impactful when it comes to your ability to communicate. If the law says there must be space in which things can exist, then the first thing you need to learn to do after you're centered is to create space. But the first thing that we normally do is fill up the space. We start speaking. We start putting things in. And here's an interesting thing about human beings. When it doesn't work, and we notice it didn't work because the person went off and did whatever they wanted to do the way they wanted to do it and didn't follow our instructions at all, so obviously it didn't work, we do the same thing again. It's funny because I have a friend that told me, human beings are different from rats in this way. If you have 4 tunnels and you put a bit of cheese down the 4th tunnel, a rat will go down the first tunnel, see if there's any cheese, notice that there isn't. Go down the second tunnel, see if there's any cheese, notice there isn't. Go down the third tunnel, see if there's any cheese, notice there isn't. Go down the 4th tunnel and find the cheese. And rats and human beings probably do the same thing in the beginning, just like that. And when each of them find cheese down the 4th tunnel, they are both smart enough to go down the 4th tunnel first the next time. They don't bother with tunnel 1, 2, or 3 because they already know that cheese is down the 4th tunnel. My friend told me the difference between a rat and a human being is a rat eventually will figure out, after going down the 4th tunnel, if you move the cheese, that the cheese isn't there anymore, and will go and look in the 1st, the 2nd, and the 3rd tunnel to see where the cheese went. But a human being will go down the tunnel forever because they are right about it and they want to prove that they're right. So stop being like a human being and be more like a rat, I guess, is the moral of that story. But here's the thing. There's just no cheese down the tunnel of trying to get something put in before you create space. What you need to do is empty space. Now, I happen to have here a full glass of water. If I told you I want to put some more water in this glass, in fact, I want to put as much water as in this glass, even more so. And I told you, and I got another glass of water and started doing it while the glass was full, you would laugh and say I was stupid and say, hey, Marsh, wait, you have to empty out the glass. Create some space. And then you can fill it up with some more water. We're really smart about glasses of water, not so much smart about communication. We have to empty out. We have to learn how to empty somebody else when they're full, to create some space so that there's some space in which our communication, our intention, our instruction, our emotions, our feelings, the things that we're sending and putting in, where that will have some space to exist within. Now, how would you suppose you would empty out a person? I hope you all thought of the same thing, which is listening. Let them speak. Let them share. Let them talk first. Let them get out some of the things that are filling them up. And then as they send them to you, catch them like you would if they threw you a tennis ball. And don't throw it back. Pretend you've got a basket over on the side and just put it in the basket and you've got it now instead of them. And what they have, instead of having the thing that filled their space, they have the space. And when you see there's enough space, and you can feel it, you can almost see it, but you can certainly feel it. that there's some room over there for them to get something, that it's not totally full, then you can start putting something in. And it's that backwards and forwards motion. Create some space, put something in, then create some space, then you can put something in. Now, listening, I don't mean listening by you're thinking about what you're going to say while you're hearing what they're saying. That's not listening. That's hearing their words, perhaps, if you're conscious enough to be able to hear them, if you're thinking about something else. Real listening is duplication. We call it a generous listening when you can consider whatever they're saying possible rather than figuring out what you're going to debate or defend or tell them why it isn't right. And it's not agreeing or disagreeing, it's allowing. In other words, you're creating some space for them to have a point of view about anything that they feel from their perspective, whatever it is, and you're allowing it to exist, that you can receive it, you can get it, you can allow it. You don't have to agree with it. You can disagree at the same time as you're allowing it. But if you're going to receive it, you have to be able to allow it. If you have to think that, or if you think that allowing and agreeing are all one thing together, if you think that it means you agree because you're allowing something to exist, we're in trouble. You have to have a distinction between those two concepts. Because if you think allowing is also means you agree, you won't be able to allow unless you do agree. And then if you don't agree, you won't be able to receive what they're saying. And if you can't receive what they're saying, you won't be able to create space. And if you haven't created any space, there won't be any room for you to put in whatever it is you want to say. So we want to get you to a place where you're willing to allow them to have a point of view that they have and not have to defend your point of view if you disagree, and not have to debate it or tell them why they're wrong. Because if you go into that mode of defending or debating, now you're putting something back into the space. We want you just to receive and empty the person out, take things out of the space, and then let them know that you did that. So it's a two-step process. You experience by being centered, open, present, and connected, what it is they're saying, and allow it to exist as if it's possible. And you receive it, you get it, you allow it, and then you let them know that that happened by acknowledging that it happened. And you use certain words to tell them you got it. Now, I'm going to show you this little piece of paper here, and I'm going to hold it up for a second so that you can maybe pause. Let's see if I can put it on straight. There we go. And you can get, these are words of acknowledgement and receipt. They're not sending a message. I don't mean great in that you're saying it's great, or good in that you're saying it's good. I mean, those are the words that you use to let them know you got it. It's kind of like they say something and you experience it, you receive it, you allow it, you duplicate it, you recreate it, you're present, open, and connected. You're right there with them. You're not texting or thinking about something else. And you're not agreeing or disagreeing. You're just allowing whatever their point of view is to exist as a possibility and consider it possible. And then you're saying, I got it. By saying, okay, fine, good, thank you, I understand. One of those 11 ways of saying, I got it. And when that happens, when you're really authentic about that, when you're really in present time, when you're really with them, when you're really generously listening, when you're really duplicating and you're receiving and allowing and letting them know that you got it, they will have the experience and they'll be able to let it go. They won't have to defend it or resist you or try to talk you into it. They'll just get that you got it. And so they'll let go of it. and then they'll have some more space. And when you have enough space and you see that you've created some space for that person, then you can choose what you want to put into that space. And like I said, then it's back and forth, back and forth. Create some space, notice they're filled up. Okay, then listen for a while, duplicate, allow what they're saying, receive, acknowledge it by telling them that you got it. But don't put anything back in. Don't say, okay, but just say, okay, and let them go on for a while. It takes a while for a person to get enough out where they have a little space. You don't have to listen forever. When you see that there is a little space, then you can respond and put something back in. But you need to listen and receive long enough that they have some space. You can't immediately say, okay, I got that. However, but I think you're wrong. You have to get used to, just like it's okay to just be quiet and silent for a bit and listen, duplicate, be open, present, and connected, and acknowledge that you got it. And something really magical happens then. They get more present. They get more centered. They get more connected. They get more willing to listen to what you're saying. Now, there is something that happens next that we're going to get to after the break that is kind of a catch-22. And if you don't understand this part, you're not even going to be successful by being willing to receive them. And I'm going to teach you a really big secret when we get back from the break. So this is Marcia Martin. I'm your host of Talk This Way, and we're being live streamed from Bold Brave TV. See you after the break.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like, it was almost instant. Like, I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back. It's Marcia. I'm your host of Talk This Way, being live streamed from Bold Brave TV. Okay, so here we have this situation where now you know how to empty somebody's space, create some space where they have some space to listen to what you're going to say, to really get what you're saying. And the way you do that is you listen in such a way, not just hearing, but really be present, open, and connected, and receive and allow whatever it is they're saying, and listen as if it's possible, and just receive it and let them know you got it. And don't send anything back yet. You're just receiving. But here's the catch-22. For you to receive what you're listening to and for you to get the things that they're sending you, the same law applies. things need space in which to exist, and they're sending you things just like you did with them. They're sending you ideas, they're sending you thoughts, they're sending you their opinions, they have emotions, they have feelings when they're sending it. And all of those take up space. And so you have to have enough space to receive. And the sad thing is, you're probably in about the same condition as they were before you started listening to them, which is you're filled up. You're filled up too. You've got your own doubts, and you've got your own to-do lists, and you've got your own regrets, and you've got your own resentments, and you've got your own upsets, and you've got your own wondering what's going to happen about, and thinking that you want this, and being worried about that. And so you're probably filled up too. So the key to really successful and productive and impactful communication is not only that you can create space in someone else so that they can receive, but that you understand how to create space within yourself. Now, creating space in someone else is mostly done through listening. Creating space in yourself, you need to practice some exercises to get your mind still so there's some space. And in many of the past episodes, I've been teaching you some exercises that will allow you to do this. But overall, I guess the best way to explain it is if you can just take 5 minutes every couple of days for a couple times a week for a couple of months and be still. Close your eyes, focus on your breathing. Close your eyes, imagine a movie screen in front of you and see a flower or see a banana or see an orange. Visualize something and just think about that for a while. Or take a walk in nature and be still. Don't always have to have someone with you, where you're not doing something all the time. You're not listening, you're not talking, you're just silent with yourself, maybe while you're walking in nature. Or you're sitting in a chair and you're just focusing on your breathing or visualizing something and being quiet and still. And some people take a long time to be able to do this, but I promise you, if you just do it 5 or 10 minutes a couple of times a week for a couple of months, you'll get better at having space. So you need to be responsible to create your own space. Meditation, and whatever you need to do to learn meditation, I will, over many, many, many episodes, continue to teach you how to meditate as I've done in the past. But there are many ways for you to find out how to meditate. Google meditation and start getting some lessons. And meditate once a week, because that clears your space. And you have to have space to be able to receive someone else so that you can create space for them. And that's the law. That things cannot exist unless there's space to exist in. And your words, your ideas, your thoughts, your emotions all take up space. And if somebody's filled up, they're not going to be able to get it. And if you're filled up, you won't be able to receive what they have in their space, so you can create space for them so that there's some space for you to tell them the things that you want to share. So this is really important, and it's just like gravity. I'm not kidding. You understand the law of gravity. I just told you a real law of communication. There must be space in which your communication can exist. Now, there's some rules or guidelines that you can follow in the beginning while you're kind of learning this. And one of them is, I want you to practice being quiet after somebody says something. So no matter what they say, if they're talking, I want you to count 3 seconds, 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, before you respond. That will give them enough time to start talking. And I promise you they will. Because people have not been trained and they haven't practiced to be comfortable and at ease and centered in silence. The minute it gets silent, you start talking. We want to fill up the space. So if you listen to someone, they're talking now, and then before you say anything back, you just go 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, to give yourself kind of a technique to quiet yourself and not say anything. After you say, okay, fine, good, and after you've experienced what they've said and they have experienced that you got it, just be quiet for 3 seconds. I promise you they will start talking. And when they're talking, again, be centered with them, be present, be open, be connected. Consider their point of view as possible. Be open about that. Receive it. Let them know you received it. Okay, good. I got it. I understand. And then count to 3,001, 1,002, 1,003, 1,000, 3 seconds before you talk. And they'll start talking. And after a while, you'll see them change as they get rid of some of the stuff that's in their space, and they'll get kind of still and centered themselves, and you can see that they're now present, and you'll see and you'll know when it's time to respond. So do the 3-second rule, and then these are some other guidelines. The first one is answer questions, acknowledge statements. Quit answering a statement, because when you answer a statement, you're putting something into the space. You want to acknowledge the statement. Thank you. I understand. Fine. Good. Then do the 3-second rule. Don't talk right away. Give some silence there so that they have an opportunity to keep going if they need to, and you'll kind of feel it that they need to talk a little bit more before they have any space, before they're willing to be centered to even listen or even be present. So acknowledge statements. This is a statement. I want to know how much it costs. That is not a question. Or, I don't think it should cost this much. That's not a question. Or, I really wish we could go and find out how that works. That's not a question. Lots of times you can tell they're asking a question, but they don't form it in a question. They form it in a statement. So you have to really listen. If you're going to acknowledge statements and answer questions, you have to know the difference between a question and a statement. Stop answering statements. It fills up the space. But when you acknowledge a statement, it empties the space. Here's another good guidance. Answer the question that's asked. Don't answer any more than that. Don't answer the question you think they really want to know. If they say, how much does it cost? Then say $350. Now, they might want to know how you decided to charge $350 or why it's worth $350 or where the $350 goes. And you can kind of hear that that's what they're really asking. But if they don't ask it, don't answer. Get them to put it into a question before you answer it. You can always say, thank you. The answer to your question is $350. And then you might say, would you like to know where the money goes? Or do you have another question about that? Or is there something else that I could share? Now you're getting them to ask you the question so that when you answer the question they really want to know the answer to, you're taking things out of the space. Because when you answer the question that's asked, you empty space. When you answer more than the question is asked, you fill space. Here's another one. Once something's in the conversation, you've put it in, you've given an instruction or you've asked a question, if it doesn't get responded to, you have to keep repeating until it is taken out. Because until it's either acknowledged or answered, it still exists in the space. So if I say, what time are you going to come to the picnic tomorrow? I promise you, if you start listening to conversations, somebody's going to say, "Oh my God, I forgot there was a picnic. I can't go to the picnic unless I go shopping first. Oh, let's see, what should I bring to the picnic?" And you'll answer that question and go off in a tangent and have another conversation altogether, which is filling up more and more and more space. And still the question you asked about what time they're going to come to the picnic hasn't even been answered. So you have to kind of notice when something gets put in the space so you can take it out. You might say, "Yeah, I understand. I haven't gone shopping either. Here's what I'm going to get. Here's what I suggest you get." And then say, "And by the way, what time are you planning to be at the picnic?" So you got to be present. You can't just be unconscious. You can't be on your phone texting. This has got to be something that you're committed to being present, open, and connected if you want any communication to take place. Now, when you come back from the break, we're going to take a short break. I'm going to tell you some personal stories of what happened to me and what happened so that you can start applying all of this. This is Marsha Martin. I'm your host of Talk This Way, and we're being live streamed from Bold Brave TV. See you after the break.
Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays, 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation.
Hey, welcome back. It's Marsha, your host of Talk This Way, and we're being live streamed from Bold Brave TV. Okay, I'm going to tell you a couple of stories of how this works in real life so that you get this sense of how to apply it. I am, of course, a trainer, and I've trained thousands of executives around the world in leadership and communication skills. And one of my clients is a very large hotel chain and a very famous international hotel chain. And they have a hotel in London. And their GM, general manager, had been told about me, as I had been leading trainings for many of the other hotels around the world of this particular hotel brand. And this general manager had been kind of told I was great, I was wonderful, he should use me, he should hire me, he should bring me into the hotel and have me work with the executive team. And to tell you the truth, he just got a little sick of hearing about me. And I was visiting London, and I, from my point of view, not knowing that this was going on with him, thought it might be a good idea to meet him, and I would be willing to meet with him and some of his team at no cost because I was already committed to the hotel brand, and it would be a good chance for me to get to know him. And so I set up an appointment while I was in London. And he came to the meeting, and we were at the cafe inside the hotel. And literally, this is what happened. He sits down and he starts talking. And he says, "Everybody's been talking about you." And at first, I was kind of flattered, and I didn't respond because I'm used to just being and sitting and listening and being centered and present and letting a person flow and empty out for a period of time till I really realized that there's some space for me to respond. And he kept talking. And he said, "But I want you to know I already have a coach and I already have a trainer and we already do leadership and I already have a team that does my leadership and I've had them for years and they really work and I don't need any coaches. And all I've been hearing about is how I should hire you and how you should come into the hotel." And I was really at this point flabbergasted because this guy was just going on and on and on. Obviously, he was frustrated and filled up with and tired of hearing about my name or me or my services. And so I just was there with him and I was saying, "Okay, I understand. Okay, great. Uh-huh. Well, good. Well, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. I hear you. I see." And he just kept going and going and going. And then he says, "And by the way, I finally just told them if I hear your name one more time, that I will never hire you." And I said, okay, well, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. And I just kept receiving and receiving and listening and being as open and centered as I could. And he kept going and he kept telling me about his other coach and his other team and his other this and why he wasn't going to hire me. And we went for at least, I would say, about an hour of him talking and me listening and saying, "Okay, I understand." And I was there. You have to understand, this isn't just a manipulation. This isn't just me doing something. This is me being a particular way. I am being present and I am being generous in my listening and I am being willing to consider what he's saying is possible. And I'm being duplicating his experience. So I'm there with him the whole time and receiving and letting him know that I got it. And then he says, "I mean, I guess I have had my coach for a long time, and it might be worthwhile considering taking on a different coach." And he started down that route. And he started talking about that for a while. And I continued to listen. And he said, "I mean, there are things that I think could help. And I hear that you're very good at what you do. So maybe it might be interesting to consider." And he kind of went down that path for a while. And finally he said, "Why don't we schedule a training?" Now, literally for an hour of that conversation, all I did was be with him, be present, be centered, and let him empty out and really receive what he shared. I'll tell you another story. And it happens like this, but you don't know it happens unless you try it out. So that's why I'm saying the 3-second rule, just 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. Don't say anything back except "I got it, fine, thank you," for a while to let them empty out. And then see where they go. See where it takes them. You'd be surprised. So I was leading a big training for about 300 people in Toronto. And I had to go through Atlanta, Georgia. And in Atlanta, the airport, if you've never been there, and I hadn't at that time been to that airport before, and I didn't realize that you took a train to the plane. And since I had a little bit of time before my plane, and I thought I was walking to the gate, I had lunch. And I was supposed to be in Toronto at a certain time, and this was really one of the few flights that it could get me there. And in addition, I had one of those tickets that was non-refundable, you can't do anything about it. I'm sorry, you will never be able to use it again unless you get on this particular plane. And by the time I finished lunch and got to the place where I thought the gate would be and found a train instead, and by the time I took the train out to where the plane was and the gate was, my plane had left. I missed my plane. And I still had 350 people waiting for me in Toronto and speaking that night. So I knew there was a chance, but I was going to go for it and see what happened. And I knew I had to use every communication skill that I had. And I went up to the woman at the desk and I shared from my heart what had happened and why it had happened. And I put that ticket down on the desk in front of her and I said, please, I need to get to Toronto on the next plane and be there in time to speak. And here's my ticket, it needs to be exchanged. Told her what I needed her to do. Well, that girl looked at that ticket and she looked at me and she said, oh, I'm so sorry, Miss Martin, you have a non-refundable ticket. And I didn't say anything. I just looked at her with as much love as I could. And I kind of shook my head and I was open and present and connected. And she started talking. I mean, I wish I could do something, but I can't do anything. I mean, I wish there was somebody that could do something, but I'm here all by myself and my manager isn't here. And I wish I could call my manager, but my manager is at lunch and she didn't take her phone. And I wish and I wish and I wish. And she kept talking and talking and talking until she looked at me and she said, you know what? I'm just going to make an executive decision in the field. And she gave me a new ticket. And I said nothing that whole time, except being open and present and connected as much as I could and let her roll and find a way to that answer. So that's what's possible. And we're going to take this to a whole new level next episode. But I want you to practice the 3-second rule between now and then. Go to my website, marciamartin.com, MarciaMartin.com. There's many services and products there that I think you will enjoy, including a podcast, including links on how to get to the archives for these TV shows, and including digital courses that you can purchase. I've really enjoyed being with you. I look forward to next week, next Tuesday, 5 o'clock, same time, same station. This is Marcia Martin, your host of Talk This Way, being live streamed from Bold Brave TV. See you next week.
This has been Talk This Way with Marcia Martin. Tune in each week and discover that the effectiveness of your communication dictates the quality of your relationships, the profits of your business, the results you produce, and your overall success in life. Tuesdays, 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Bold Brave